delighted to have returning again this week, David Olsson from BlockFi. David, thanks so much for coming back.
Thank you, Tina. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. We're going to get into a little bit of a deep dive into Bitcoin ATMs. But before we do, I just wanted to check in with you, given the election this week, lots going on in the geopolitical space, and seems to be having a bit of an impact in the lending market, and seems to have a bit of softening around the DeFi space. What's going on?
Yeah, always interesting. The election, we think at BlockFi obviously will be good for crypto, whichever way the election goes. Well, we think it'll be positive because the government still needs to spend a lot of money. Central banks still need to print a lot of money to get us out of this the COVID crisis. Yeah. So crypto is going to benefit from that, obviously, and especially Bitcoin. On the lending side of things, you're right. The DeFi craze has settled down a bit, and a bit of normalcy has returned to the market. So we saw ETH rates, borrow rates skyrocket over the last kind of couple months to actually above where dollar lending rates were, which is pretty significant, which we hadn't seen before. And just people scrambling to get ETH from whatever corner back of the sofa, that they could. And now we're seeing that sort of trade unwind and wondering, what will be the next thing in terms of dollar rates. They've settled down a bit. The futures curve has flattened a bit as we headed into election and the volatility calmed down.
So the topic of the week, talking about Bitcoin, is Bitcoin ATMs. Just give us an overview. What exactly is a Bitcoin ATM for anyone who doesn't know?
Sure. Obviously, an ATM or cash point here in the UK is where we go to withdraw fiat currency. A Bitcoin ATM, on the other hand, is usually where someone would go to purchase cryptocurrency, predominantly Bitcoin. There are some kiosks that will also let you sell your Bitcoin online and then withdraw fiat, which is pretty cool. We are also seeing some of the altcoins get supported by some of the kiosks as well.
Okay, so moving toward crypto ATMs, not just Bitcoin ATMs, yes. And moving from a vending machine to essentially more of an interactive buy and sell experience.
Yes.
Take us through how they work.
So we've actually enlisted one of our underwriters, Joe Chu, to be an intrepid Bitcoin ATM explorer. You'll see him here in the slides, or at least he's our hand model. So you can see him approach a Bitcoin ATM. We've had to, obviously blank out the name of the vendor. And then he's given a few choices. I think there's buy an e-gift card, donate to charity, and then buy Bitcoin. And so he selects buy Bitcoin, which then takes him into a disclaimer page. And he has to accept the disclaimers, and there's a number of them, like the quantity of funds that he can deposit in a day, the fact that he'll have to go through AML KYC procedures before receiving it, etc. He then inserts his fiat currency into the machine. The machine prints out a receipt that has a code on it. So when he goes home, he logs into a website that's on the receipt. He punches in his code. Then he has to go through AML KYC. And then finally, he gets his Bitcoin put into a wallet. And the Bitcoin will arrive, obviously, without certain fees that the ATM operator will take out. And those fees can range from 3 to 10%. So it's not
is that
mostly expensive.
KYC portion new to this experience, or has that been there?
No, it is. So it is new. In the US, Bitcoin ATMs are regulated as money service businesses, so they have to have FinCEN regulation. Here, and that's a relatively new development, and the US has kind of been, ATM operators have been flexible in rolling that out. I think in the UK, the fact that the FCA has said that all companies dealing in cryptocurrencies or virtual currencies need to register with them has thrown some of the Bitcoin ATM operators for a loop.
Yeah.
And they're struggling, obviously, to get the infrastructure together to allow people to continue to use them.
Yeah, I can imagine. So where does one find a Bitcoin ATM? You mentioned the US, the UK. Are they prevalent?
Yeah, as you can see from the heat map that we've put together, they're predominantly in the US, almost 10,000 in North America with 9,300 in the US. There's a few hundred in the UK, most of those in London. The most famous one it used to be in Bond Street, which just spontaneously started spitting out pound notes a couple years back and has since been removed. But they're growing in number, and we're seeing just the numbers of Bitcoin ATMs and cash points explode in the US and in Europe.
So who's using Bitcoin ATMs? Who's the target market for this service?
That's a really good question. The first people would be just those who are adventure seekers or looking for novelty and buying their first Bitcoin. But the vast majority, we believe, are people who are looking to remit funds back to their countries, which are probably in developing markets where local currencies are probably not as stable and maybe have deflation versus, for example, U.S. dollar or pound or Bitcoin for that matter. So they're using it as a way to securely send money back home without having to go through kind of the loop, jump through hoops in terms of capital controls, which a lot of these countries would have. As well, they probably get a higher rate. What we've heard is there's a higher rate changing from cryptocurrency like Bitcoin to local currency than if they went through regulated channels and sending fiat like dollars and then converting into local currency.
Meaning it's more expensive for them or less expensive for them?
It's less expensive because the exchange rates for changing into from cryptocurrency to local currency are better, more in favor of the retail user.
Yeah, fantastic. Maybe we should try it. You and I can...
I think we should check if the Bond Street.
Well, if it's giving away free money, somebody should go. Yeah. Exactly. David, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for coming back.
Likewise. Thanks, Teana.
Take care.